But as soon as I wake up once, it's not going back to bed. My feet hit the floor and my routine starts, right? If I go back even for that 2 seconds, I've broken my sort of rule and I've accepted that first excuse of the day, which is going to push off everything else.
All right, I'm here with Todd, founder, CEO, Icon Meals, good friend, longtime friend, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Todd. So welcome to the PBH Podcast, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Brian. Look forward to speaking with you. It's glad we could connect.
Yeah, and so Todd, I mean, we've known each other for quite some time now, but we've never spoken about, I guess, Todd before Icon Meals. So
Yeah.
what was 14-year-old Todd, and what was life like for him?
Yeah, 14-year-old Todd would have been growing up in Canada, would be a little bit heavier than it was. Grew up, I'll call it the fat kid, right? Grew up with the nickname about that time of Lumpy. So grew up in Northern Ontario, north of Toronto, playing hockey. Weird industry. My dad, he still owns funeral homes and cemeteries, crematoriums up in Canada. So grew up in the funeral industry, little tiny hick town, farm boy. But yeah, just aspirations, doing big things, but not really on the health and fitness side, knowing as much as I know now. Just thought calories and everything was anything that could go in your body to be consumed, and they were all good. And wasn't really paying attention to the exercise portion, just thought that would take care of itself. But yeah, so from there, lots of forward things, but grew up in a small farm town in northern Canada.
And you said that you played hockey. Was that
Yeah.
was that kind of like recreationally? Was that in school?
Yeah, so in Canada, it's like moved down to Texas, right? Everything's football and church, and in Canada, it's sort of hockey, lacrosse, and things as such. So I grew up playing. I'll call it competitive. I didn't play I played juniors for a couple of years, but until I was 18, played in like C and B division, so junior hockey in Canada, but more recreational. Both my kids down here, of course. Two of my boys play. One plays in the North American Hockey League for 3 years and stuff. So he's much higher level competitive than me. But yeah, I grew up playing pretty much every day, every weekend in pond hockey, and then competitively up till I was 18 and went to school. So yeah.
Now, when the kids called you Lumpy, was that just because you were overweight, or you just like a bigger guy than everybody else?
Yeah, I was bigger, but I was also overweight. It wasn't like a thing to how kids are today. It's like, oh, not whoa, poor Todd, the victim, whatever, right? It was like all in good fun and stuff, but Lumpy just was a bigger guy back then. Today I have like whatever 32-inch waist, etc. More back then, probably 36, 38-inch waist. It was just a big kid, right? Yeah. Everything, like I told you, I consumed calories and had fun doing it. And down the road after, I wouldn't say at 14 years old, but later in life, I consumed some of those alcoholic beverages and stuff as well that didn't help as much. So but yeah, it got that nickname from, I'll call it friendly conversation, and that carried with me pretty much through all high school.
Got it. So let's fast forward just a little bit. You're at Honda, and you're tasked with like 4 different things in an 8-hour shift, right? Yeah. What's that inner dialogue that you had, that you're kind of standing there in the assembly line, and you tell yourself, you tell yourself like, what is, like, this is not me, I'm unemployable, I need to do this for myself, like I need to get in business for myself. What was that inner dialogue like?
Yeah, it's the way I'm wired. It's again, you've obviously heard previous conversations and stuff, but from that standpoint, Honda was the thing that sort of changed, I call it my town's life and stuff, going from 5,000 people to 30, 40,000 people, right? And everyone had to work at Honda. So when I was at college, my dad was like, you got to get a job here, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, took that job, and I just, like I told you the story before, I lasted 2 weeks, and it's really just because the dialogue, it's like, I'll call it much like today, right? In society, the government wants you, people want you to do certain things, and I don't do well in that environment where you're told to do specific things. I want to think for myself. Like there, you don't think for yourself, right? It's very much that machine operator. It's like you come in, you put this white jumpsuit on, you go to your locker, put this jumpsuit on, you walk through yellow lines, like down this hall to be guided. And you're trained. Like I believe I changed wheels, I did steering wheels, I did some dashboard thing and something else, and it was like 8 hours of grind. 2 hours you'd count down, and then what do you do at the end of 2 hours? You go on your shift break and have your coffee, have your lunch, whatever it is, and come back. And I know people that love it. They've been there 30, 40 years, but for me, it's just, that was like the definition of insanity for me, doing that same thing over and over again, right? And you could have I don't know, put me on hard labor doing something else, and it would have been better than doing that. Just so, um, yeah, after a couple weeks there, I quit and went to network marketing, where no salary, no guarantee anything, working 110 hours a week, 90, 110 hours a week, knocking on doors. I think about it now, pretty crazy in some of the neighborhoods in Toronto, knocking on doors. But yeah, it's just the way I'm wired differently, right? From the standpoint of wanting to be able to do my own thing. And I think that was probably one of the best things that helped me, though, sort of get me to where I am today, because that was really the start of what I'll call my personal development, or getting around people that were in that environment, that weren't just sort of the mediocre, weren't just settling for average, weren't just wanting the $20 an hour or $15 an hour, whatever it was back then. And it just sort of allowed me to, I think, always see that there is more and want to get out of that. I felt like, to me, that's the rat race. And again, just wasn't sort of, I think, I don't know, in my genes wired that way.
At what age did you start network marketing?
Yeah, so I was probably 18. So 17, 18. I think 18 was really when, so it would have been at Honda, 17, 18 years old. And finished college, I guess, the next year. And from that standpoint, started working for a company, the only company I ever worked for. But it was really, those guys were 21 years old, 20 years old, with a Chinese billionaire, 34-year-old Chinese billionaire, where me and another guy were running an entire operation at 21. It was a pretty crazy lifestyle. There's a bunch of stories there, but from there, then I went into my own businesses after that. But that was really sort of, there was no boss there. I was running our own business. That's when how I got down to Dallas, but moving from Toronto to Montreal, and then to Dallas to open a U.S. headquarters for them. And then from there, some crazy stories, but started my own after that.
Are there specific lessons, or I guess moments in time, when you were working at network marketing or in a network marketing company, that you can translate to the success of Icon Meals?
I think the biggest thing is the tolerance of risk, right? People like all the time look at, like, I hear a lot of people, and even employees in this company or the one before Icon Meals. I had Layer Technologies for 14 years before we sold it, and the other one for 3 years before we sold that. But I always see a lot of people come in, they're like, hey, I want to do this and I want to do that. I'm like, I always want to allow people to better themselves, right? I want them to have success. They want to go do their own thing. That's why, like, I'm always going to support them in any way. They want to, I don't know, read books, they want to go to courses, etc. We'll support them. And from that standpoint, I see a lot of people hold themselves back. They want this thing, but there's always something that's holding them back, and it's really that element of risk. I think it's how, like, network marketing teaches you, you rely on you, right? You kill what you eat, but it's also from that standpoint. People always say, like, what did you do, like, when you built this business? And I'm like, well, whatever I needed to do, right? And they're like, well, you built this company on credit cards and this and that and had no money. Well, yeah, but it's me betting on me. So I'm going to bet on me all the time, right? And risk really defines, like, I'll call it a calculated risk. Sure, there's a ton of risk, but when I'm betting on myself and the footprint of me, I'm sure that, like, I'm going to get through. I'm going to make it through somehow, right? And that's always, like, I have the work ethic. The work ethic's been built. And it's like ingrained in me that I'm just not going to quit. There's no quit, right? It's nothing that's going to be. So I think network marketing really helped me to better my thought process, to look at, like, just working on little steps, not just making, hey, you're going to make $1 million today, right? It's like the little steps in between, and celebrating those wins upon wins. I call it stacking, like rack and stack, right? Like Bobby Casper says, like, putting things on top of one another that you can just stack and stack and stack and stack and stack. And from that standpoint, in the business side, it's really like invested everything I had in the business. So done that a couple times, but it's really I think the risk tolerance is the biggest thing that's allowed me to have success.
Has your risk tolerance changed from, I guess, the moment you opened, or the first couple months of Icon Meals as opposed to now? And what does that risk look like back then compared to now?
Yeah, I think risk's always defined at different levels, right? Like it's like that Biggie Smalls song, like, more money, more problems, right? It's at different levels. So when you only have, let's say, I don't know, $10,000 a month to work with, or you have a budget of maybe $100K a month or something, and you got to do, there's elements of risk within that. And then it becomes, okay, let's say now you're spending $100,000 a month just on Facebook and Google, or you're I don't know, you have $1 million a month budget or whatever now, right? It's all relevant, and it's how you look at it. But I think a lot of people can't get over that next element, and they always say, hey, when it's perfect, right? like I can't do this until this is right or that's right. And I say, look, it's never going to be perfect. I was saying, I say better is perfect. If you can work on being better every day, and if you can, I'll call it expand that risk tolerance or your mentality, and that comes with growth. So I think a lot of people don't have the internal growth working on themselves, right, to get to that next level. They don't believe in themselves enough. I say if you don't believe in yourself enough, you have to find someone else that believes in you more than you believe in yourself to allow you to have that. So I think that's important in surrounding yourself with mentors in like I'll call it networking groups or masterminds or whatever, just to have different people that you can soundboard off. And a lot of people I think resonate as well, where they hit this what I call law of the lid, like John Maxwell's law of the lid. You're hitting that lid, right? And you can't ever get above that lid until that lid's, and that often takes a different set of eyes, different set of people. It's really people that have built my companies. So from that standpoint, I think it's at different levels looking at resetting that bar, because a lot of people can't reset that bar mentally. They get stuck on one thing and it becomes, hey, I can't do this because, and it's never going to be a perfect time, right? So if you can get over that and you can just work on, like, I don't know, getting the product out where it's not fully baked and you're going to figure everything else out, well, then that's the roadblock I see for a lot of people. So it's all about levels. There's levels to everything in life, in business, personal, etc., that you have to overcome in order to get to that next piece.
Have you ever had that moment where you tell yourself like I can't, but then you kind of you revert back to the things that you've learned and said, hey, like this is self-talk, and what is that moment where you've said like I can't, and you're trying to work through it, and then finally you just push past that?
Yeah, I don't think I have like any that I can't remember a time lately, at least, that I said I can't. I think there's a lot of things that I've come up against, and then it's looking at how I reset. I have to, I'll call it almost ground myself. I think when I get to a level of frustration, I think it's also with maturity. So earlier on, it would be like a lot of the times when, hey, I didn't have this money or I didn't have this. But again, I always have to look at solutions, right? A lot of the things that I think got me frazzled when I started in business, another example, like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, right? The first time I ever got sued in Icon Meals, it's just because I'm in the food business, right? And I was like, holy shit, what I do wrong? We're like integrities, we do everything by the book, etc. But the lawyer's like, look, as you grow and have more success, you're going to just get more and more and more ambulance chasers, more and more people in this industry. And you just got to deal with it. And I just had to adjust that, right? Does this affect me 5 minutes from now? Does it affect me 5 days from now? How is this impacting me, right? And I have to look at it and really put it into pieces, break it down for me. Like, how do I eat the elephant in a bunch of different pieces rather than one bite? And that's how I have to look at everything, because I look at the big, I'll call it problem or big roadblock in front of me. And I think a lot of people, including myself for a long time, I'd look at this roadblock, I'd look at this wall and I'd be like, shit, I just got to run at it harder. I got to like, hey, how are we going to cut a window through it, right? It's not. It's like, okay, now my mind's like, okay, how do I put a ladder up and so I can go over this thing, right? We'll deal with this as we're going to deal with it, but I'm going to go up and keep going. I'm not just going to keep hitting that wall. I think for a long time, that was a mindset. But again, as you get into circles, and I've really worked on myself over the past years, invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, into like masterminds, into networking groups, like just always having someone. I never want to be the smartest person. I never want to be the person with the most money, the most experience, right? I want to, I'll call it time collapse. And that's why I like surrounding myself with coaches, with mentors, with different people. I think that brings out different pieces in me that I don't see in myself, or that I might have like conflict with, but they call me out and they hold me accountable. So that's what I've used. I'll call assemble a different team around me, right? A coach for this, a coach for that, a mentor here, a networking group. I go to different masterminds monthly, etc. So you have to have a team around you to have that level of success. And teams, again, are at different levels, right? You can have this level, you can have that level, and it's always being able to continue to grow.
So on the topic of time collapsing and mentors, I've heard you mention time collapsing in the past a few times. And can you unpack that a little bit on what time collapsing actually is? And then if someone's looking for a mentor or a group of mentors, I guess what questions should they be asking, or what value do you think that they can deliver to a potential mentor?
Sure. I think time collapsing is really like, if you want something in your life, in your business, right? Let's just say, for instance, I don't know, I need to open a new location for Icon Meals, 100,000 square feet, ground floor, build it, etc. Maybe, for instance, I'm just starting. I don't have no clue, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to go look for someone who's done this before in this industry, right? I'm going to go hire consultants. I'm going to go hire try to recruit away someone else, but that's time collapsing, right? It's getting something that might take me 6 months to a year or even longer, but if I have that expertise and I can buy that expertise, or I can go into, like, let's say a CPG group or someone in the industry that has a group, right, that's maybe a bunch of operational COOs for food companies, and I can invest in that and pay to have my window collapse. So instead of my taking a year, maybe it takes me 2 months, maybe it takes me a month to hire someone, another month to get things going, a project going, etc. But that's time collapse. Instead of that year, I've paid money, right, and invested my time as well to get the resources that I need to condense the amount of time that something would take me longer term. And that can be done in anything, like with a coach or mentor, right? I'm going to pay for, let's say I'm running a race, and maybe it's, I've never run 100-miler or something like that, right? I'm going to invest in a coach to time collapse the expertise that it takes, the skill sets that I need to then be coached and trained and put a program in place to time collapse. Maybe instead of taking me a year to build up, it's going to take me 4 weeks or 8 weeks, because it's been broken down and laid a plan before me. So that's sort of time collapsing. From a mentor or a coach, there's, I don't know, it bugs me a little bit today because there's so many life coaches and everything out there, right? Everyone's a coach on something, and everyone has all this information. And one thing, it's, to me, like, I'm never going to go, I don't know, invest with someone that doesn't have the money that I want to have, right? Or, like, I'm not going to go to a coach, and let's say if I was a bodybuilder and that doesn't have the body, I'm not going to go to some guy who weighs 400 pounds and I'm paying him X amount of dollars if he does not, or she does not have what I want to have, right? So I think that's important, because it's got to be from a real business standpoint, a real life lesson, that someone has had that experience that they can take you there. I go back and it's like, hey, them going up the hill, they come back down the valley and they can take you back up the hill, right? Because they've been there before, they know those steps, they've learned the lessons. And so that's what I always look for in a mentor or in a coach, someone that has what I want, someone that has the skill set, someone has the discipline, the accountability, someone's going to hold me accountable, right? Like, give me the no bullshit. Hey, call me out and be that way, right? And not accept my excuses. And I think, like, there's a lot of guys out there today, like a lot of controversial people, like Andy Elliott and stuff, right? Like, I don't know if you saw him, but he talks about, like, hey, if you don't have a six-pack in his business, you're fired. Yeah, and people are like, holy shit, like, F you sort of guy, right? But it's true. It's a mindset. If you are capable of getting it and you don't have it and you don't want, you give an excuse, that's, to me, is bullshit, because everything's buying or selling excuse in life, right? So there's, again, levels of accountability, and we all are being bought and sold different things through life. So when I go for a mentor, I don't want any bullshit excuses in the masterminds, right? I want other people that have had experiences in different business. That's why I love masterminds, because it's a bunch of different people coming together with different realms of life and experience that really then can dump into me in an area, let's say, that's a 2 or 3 day, right? So I'm part of, like, 100 Million Mastermind, a bunch of other ones, but there's only 100 people in that, but they all bring different life experiences. They're all different levels, right? And to be able to time collapse and pack that in, and then it's like, holy shit, okay, I can take this piece from this person, this piece from, these are the lessons I've learned, and then take it back, leave that environment, and go and implement it into my business, into my life. And that's, again, what I think a good mentor or a good mastermind really provides you with.
What about if someone is just starting out and they don't have any kind of money to invest into these groups or any kind of mentors? How would they approach this?
There's a ton, like, when I started way back, right, when I was 18, 20, there was no, like, internet, like, all this shit. It was just getting started. You can Google and you can find more free crap than anything. There's more trainings. There's tons of masterminds on Google. You can pretty much type whatever you want, especially, like, with ChatGPT and all the AI and stuff out there now. There is more resources. You don't need to pay for anything, right? You can, but again, most people I know are the worst on procrastination, right? They want something, but they don't want to take the steps to make it happen, right? They want it's like, okay, when it's this right time, or it's going to happen. It's just not going to magically happen. You have to take the steps. You have to want it bad in yourself. And that's where I think a lot of people get there. It's like that employee-employer mindset. You have to be your employer as well. And you have to be the hardest employer on yourself and not accept your own bullshit excuses. And you have to do the work, right? You have to put in to get that results. And that's where I see a lot of disconnect, right? They know what they have to do, including me at times, but I don't necessarily, because X, Y, and Z, right? And that's where, when you've worked on yourself enough, you know, hey, shit, this is a signal that's popping up. Todd, like I have on my phone, right, in my alarm in the morning, it says, like, don't be a bitch, okay, like, etc., different things. but they're just reminders to me to not do it. It's like when I wake up in the morning, I wake up with ever an alarm, right? But as soon as I wake up once, it's not going back to bed. My feet hit the floor and my routine starts, right? If I go back for even for that 2 seconds, I've broken my sort of rule and I've accepted that first excuse of the day, which is going to push off everything else. Yeah. So it's a mentality thing, but you got to constantly be working on you because our world and the whole shit system out here is just beating you down all the time, right? Filling you with wokeness and wanting you to be that sort of accept mediocre and fit in that piece. And you have to not want that. You have to differentiate yourself, and you have to want enough to go and not procrastinate because there's just more things that are being pushed in to keep you where you want it, where they want you.
Yep. And you've mentioned a lot about mentors, and there has to be, I guess, maybe like a handful of mentors that you feel have made more of an impact on you and your leadership style than others. So who, if you have anyone that kind of comes to mind, which of those people most influenced your leadership style or how you operate as an entrepreneur?
Sure. Yeah. So originally I had one of my original partners. He was like my second dad. His name was Bob Neon. He passed away when I was in 2017. But he acquired our first company. They owned the largest real estate investment trust in Canada, Neon Holdings. And if you go to Montreal, like all the downtown commercial buildings, the Dorval Airport was his land. But again, just self-made, right? So I learned a lot of different lessons from him in life. And he was really, like I said, that Robert Kiyosaki sort of rich dad, right? But and then I had Michael Plattner, who was one of my first partners, and he runs a huge law firm out of Florida, Louis Brisebois. But again, there's lots of different people. Bobby Castro was a billionaire, right? Sold his fintech company for 1.6 billion cash. He's just so many different things that he's put in my life. Again, there's lots of different people that I hang around with that are mentors, right? Like if you look at masterminds, there's Dan Fleischman, Joel Marion from 100 Million Mastermind. They've been great people in my life. There's like Ryan Stewman, Hardcore Closer, Ryan Bowen. All these guys have just been self-made, right? But from that standpoint, they've just poured different pieces through the business, right? Again, I got spiritual mentors. I got a business coach, John Cheplak, right? So Cheplak's one of the guys that he coaches the biggest real estate guys in the world, right? He's on all the stages. But again, that's a guy that I was coaching with for a long time. On this spiritual side, Heath Evans, there's a bunch of different people, right? But again, it's not one. For me, I've had many mentors and still have many mentors and coaches for different realms of my life in my business, right? It's not just one fits all, right? Because this one serves a certain need and holds me accountable to certain business standards, right? This group holds me accountable for different things. So it's been a bunch of different people. It's like putting a puzzle together, right? Where the pieces fit. And again, things change and evolve. When you're at different levels, it's not going to be the same maybe group that you're here when you're here, right? But again, one allows you to climb and grow in different directions.
I want to read back something that I read that you wrote. And because there's a lot of intensity, with you when it comes to like running the business, but you've also talked about the importance of slowing down, and I just want to read back these three things that
Yep.
you wrote. One was you focus on what's truly important in life. You stay healthy, so busyness leads to stress, chronic stress leads to poor health, and you be more productive. It sounds counterintuitive, but rest is essential for productivity. So can you unpack those 3 points for me?
Sure. Yeah, so for me, I think it was a little altered state, I'll call it, when I first started it, right? Everything was about money because I would justify me working and making money as when I had my first two kids. I had them young, right? I've been married 25 years. And so when my first little guy was born, he's 23 now and 18, but it was always like, okay, I need to work more, and I justify it because, hey, I'm providing for you guys. I'm making this future, right? And it's not all about just money. To me, it's about experiences I've learned. It's about like building that legacy and building the time together. And so when I say like the rest and stuff, it really comes down to, for me, it's all about like longevity for me and health now, right? And why I work out, it's really about, that's my therapy, right? That's for me being able to be the best version of myself I can be for other people. So like a lot of that over the years has got like, I was always like, I still only sleep probably 3 to 4 hours a night, but I've tried to expand that, right? So ever since my little guy, who's 8 now, I've typically probably in bed by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, but it's those first couple hours that are really my power sleep. So even I'm waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I still had 6 hours or more, right? And I maybe get a little bit more. I'm trying to get more and more and more, but still I'm up at 3:30 every day pretty much. But some of the things that are important to me, like a lot of people say like, oh, what do you take? This and that. It's all, I take a ton. I probably take, I think 50 some pills different on a daily basis, but they're all different pieces that I've had that are vitamins, minerals, things that just do different things for me, right? And we can get into like, I have a pretty big supplement regimen and stuff and belief, but from that standpoint, also like cold therapy, the plunge, like that's been just life changing for me, right? From chronic stress, from heart, from different things, and from inflammation. That's one of the biggest things. And then the sauna. So there's certain pieces that I do that are all gauged around longevity. I want to be like still active when I'm 80, 90, hopefully 100 years old, right? And still have that vitality, which is really so. And going back to like what's important, sure, building a business, building different things is important in life, because to me, though, money is now, it's all not about money. Money is a tool that allows you to do different things, to give more, to be able to help others, right? Through that, it's a really a transactionary piece. But before, so many people, I was focused on material things, watches, houses, cars, like who gives a shit? You can't take it with you, right? So from that standpoint, it's about providing those experiences, like, okay, going on vacations with my family, with my friends, with different people, right? Living those life lessons. And I've had a lot of my friends and just people around me that they've just been taken much too early, right? So that really hits home at different pieces and different times, and really looking at like, hey, when our time comes, it's our time, right? And from that standpoint, just taking what's valuable and just learning how to live it to the most each and every day, and getting optimal, like, it's about relationships to me, right? My family is key. We do everything pretty much together. It's not like, I don't know, I've never been one of the guys that goes out and, yeah, sure, way back, like a bunch of guys weekends and stuff, but I'd much rather be with my kids and my wife and stuff, right? From that standpoint. So looking at what's important to me, and then how do I optimize my health to get the best version of me? But I think that also comes through my kids, right? And just how I live my life, how we eat, how we do different things from the standpoint of health and fitness and all that's important sort of core of our life, and how we do it. And then Icon just sort of fits right into it, just based on it's the food side is really what has allowed me to get where I am on I'll call it on a healthy basis.
There's a lot to unpack there. I would say the one thing that you mentioned that really resonates with me, and it's something that I take with me every day, is, when you're 6 feet under, or when people are looking over your casket, they're not going to say, man, Todd had a really cool watch. Like, they are going to remember you for how you made them feel, right? Yeah. Was he a great friend? Was he a present father, right? Was he an available husband? Was he a good friend, nephew, cousin, brother, whatever we want to throw in there. And that's how I try to operate every single day, is I have everything I need, right? I have my wife, I have my child, I have a roof over my head. Everything else is just kind of extra. And the only thing that we can kind of take with us into the afterlife is the relationships that we kind of built over time, and the memories, right? So everything that we have on, the shirts that we're wearing, the shoes that we have on, watches, whatever, that's all borrowed. Right, like it that becomes someone else's or trash when we kind of pass on. So when you say that, it really resonates with me, because ultimately that's kind of how I try to live my life as well. Is just I don't need anything from anybody. It's just kind of let's have a deeper conversation. Let's know each other as people, and if you're my person, great, we're people now. Like we're friends or whatever it may be, and if not, hey, we're just not a good match. So that really resonated with me. So but on the topic of supplements, because I'm like right now, like I have a protein shake that I take. I take creatine now, as you can see my noodle arms, and I take things like like beef liver and bone marrow, and like just like a bunch of different stuff. So what would you say are like the top 3 to 5 things that anybody should kind of put in their supplement their supplement regimen?
Yeah, I think it's different things at different times, but if you say a baseline, right, there's like a lot of people are just missing even the most basic minerals in their diet, right? A lot of people, of course, like doctors and stuff, don't even tell you, but like I don't know. I take everything from vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E. Like I take zinc. I'm a big proponent on magnesium. You have to understand there's different types of magnesium for different uses, right? So like I take glycinergic at night to help me sleep and rest and recover. There's a different type of magnesium I take during the day. I take NAC. NAC was a banned substance during COVID because it actually works. It helps your lungs, immune function. I just take a bunch of stuff. I take stuff for inflammation. I'm a big believer in like different fish oils and stuff, right? Again, the omegas. So there's a lot of basis. Like I can guide you and put in the links or whatever. I have like a video on YouTube that basically shows a breakdown for me. But again, I'm pretty regimented on that. People are like, holy shit, you spend $600 plus a month on supplements, and they're all like over the counter. Yeah, but that's just what works for me, right? It doesn't have to be guided for you, but it's what works for me, and it's a baseline. So I have like a baseline that's really, and if I don't follow that baseline, I feel different, right? On different things. Sure, I take my creatine. I'm not a big, like, I'll call it whatever you want to say, supplement, like other pre-workouts and all this stuff. Like I'm pretty basic, right? I drink coffee before I work out. I used to take all the crazy pre-workout stuff, but for me, yeah, I believe in creatine. I believe there's a mental function, there's a strength function that creatine serves. I'm not a big supplement person on like protein and stuff. I try to eat more food. Like on the protein side, I try to take 250 sort of more grams a day in protein between, I call it chicken, beef, different things. But yeah, I love a good protein shake once in a while. Typically, I'll take that after I work out, or if I'm in a rush because I do want to get my protein in. But from that, those are pretty much my, I'll call it supplements that I'll take. But there is like certain things that, yeah, you need to take, especially in this day and age with all the craziness going around, but like the zinc and different things, right? Just to help your body be sort of like, there's so much and many viruses and stuff going out there today, right? And knock on wood, I'm usually, hopefully just maybe sick once a year, if that, right? So from that standpoint though, that the baseline is what I try to build off. And then I might sample different things, right? I use lion's mane for my like nerves and brain and different things. And you can get into some different other substances right now, but there's different things that I use based on sort of what I've researched. And I'm always looking, like I said, just as a mentor, right? Looking for a new mentor, looking for a new mastermind. I'm always, hey, if I see something that works, I'm going to be the guinea pig, right? I'm going to be, how does it work on me? So am I going to get this result? Am I going to get like, so I'm experimenting with different new supplements, new herbs, etc. But I do have that baseline that's pretty standard all the time as well.
One of the other things that I've wanted to try that you mentioned is cold plunges, right?
Yeah.
And I've tried cold showers. They're brutal.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what a cold plunge is like. So
Yeah.
how long have you been doing that, and how, I can't imagine that it gets any easier. I know that I see some, like, I see the Rogans and the Hubermans of the world, and they kind of like it looks like they're like in a hot tub. Like it looks like they kind of just dip in.
It's all in your mind. It's really like it's the mind function, right? Again, you're being a bitch if not. Like that's just, it's really it's you that's fighting you, right? Because I've seen my kid, like my little guy, he was 7, he gets in it, he won't sit down, it's 39 degrees, but he stands there and he's like, get the video. And I'm like, I didn't ever tell him to do that, right? He just wants to do it. But I've also seen like one of my other friend's daughters, she's 11, she got in 39 degrees for 4.5 minutes. I'm like, holy crap, she's like totally submerged. So it's what you put up is hard in your mind becomes not hard, right? And it's you putting up a wall for you saying, you've heard holy shit, because it's uncomfortable. And many people in life, we don't want to do uncomfortable things, right? And that's our biggest proponent. So it's really you working up. And when I started doing it, I hated it. I still hate it today, right? It's funny because like I talked about procrastination. I'm going to procrastinate probably like, I don't do it as much now, but if I know I'm going to cold plunge, I'll procrastinate and do 5 different things before I get in the damn tub. So what do? I typically do it first thing in the morning, 3:30 in the morning when I wake up. I'm going to pull on a pair of shorts and go straight to the garage and hop in that damn thing, because that's like the biggest sort of thing for me that just, it kicks everything off. It's like a huge rush of adrenaline, etc. And that's how I start my day a lot of the time, right? But again, I'm doing it right now for, typically I'll do it 3 to 4 times a week for about 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. And people say, hey, what's the right, look, I don't know, there's a bunch of research out there. I don't think it's any better doing it 6 or 7 minutes. Typically I find 3 to 4 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week does great for me. And I gauge that on how I sleep, my blood pressure, like just different things for my heart and my body, right? And then inflammation. But it's really, so I don't know, I put on a song, most of the songs that I like, 4.5 minutes. And I just know, hey, it's time to get out. So it's like, again, it goes back to your mind. It's your breathing, right? It's all a bit for me, the out breath. It's like, you studied Wim Hof or you've studied anything like that or yoga, it's all about the breath. It's controlling your breathing, because when you get off that pattern of your breathing, that's when you start shivering and shaking, and then you start taking these things. And to me, it was like, just in my mind, I'm like telling myself, hey, I'm not going to die, right? That's what I used to do. Like, I'm not going to die. I'm fine. I'm not going to die. It's like, okay. And that's what allowed me to like stop being a baby about it, right? And I would challenge myself to do it longer and longer and longer, where, okay, great. For me, 3 minutes now is really, it's not much at all. And then I start 4.5 minutes is like when I start going, okay, and I have to work on myself. I haven't never gone over like 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes, but to me, it's that love-hate relationship, but I feel so much better after I do it, that gives me the want to continue doing it, because I know I'm getting the effects and the benefits from it.
Man, I love it. All right, fine. I'm gonna buy myself a cold plunge then. And then I'll take my first video, and I'm gonna tell you, as I'm going in, I'm gonna say, look, I'm not a bitch, Todd. Look at me going in. What is the phrase, the relentless pursuit of greatness, mean to you?
Sure, I think relentless pursuit, I say, is just, it's because it's like, that's life, right? You're constantly going forward, relentlessly pursuing everything, right? Relentless is like not giving up, not what we talked about, hey, not quitting, right? It's not that no, can't do, whatever. It's just you're relentlessly moving forward. You're forging a path forward. If there's not a path, you're going to find or make that path, right? But it's just continuously going forward, head down, strong, not accepting excuses. I also use the term like excuseless life. You're either like, I don't know if it's a word or not, right? But not accepting excuses. That's, to me, relentless pursuit of greatness just means going after greatness with no barriers to overcome, right? Sure, there's going to be things that happen, but we're just going to relentlessly forge a path forward.
That's amazing. And you, or Icon Meals was named the official meal delivery company of the UFC. How did that relationship start? What do those conversations look like, and what does your future look like with that organization?
Sure. Yes, we worked with different fighters like Stipe and stuff for a long time before. We actually had the relationship with them, and I guess 2.5 years ago now, whatever, they had a change with the people they were currently working with before, and our name got thrown in that loop. We started working with Clinton Duncan, who run the sort of the PI, and there was an initiative for fighters to not make weight, right? And that was one of the biggest things, cost them money. But it's also, if you're a fighter, a professional athlete, I don't think you need to be 16, 20 weeks to get ready. You shouldn't, right? If you're a professional and that's your career, in my mind, you should need max 8 weeks, right? And so we started working with them, the dietitians, with Charles and his group in there, in regards to working on the fighter's diet. So anyone that goes through the PI, they would put on Icon Meals diet program, right? Longer, larger vision, of course, is an e-commerce play for them. It's like, I don't know if you're Diamond Dallas Page, right? It's like, how do you train? What do you eat? And then can it be tied back to a meal plan, etc. But I think for there, like nutrition in that, in any other sport, is really key, right? And it's the regimented key component. So I think there was a great match there, just from us being able to do custom meals, to do different things, from a reputation and integrity standpoint of like sort of doing what we say we're going to do, and in regards to the quality and different things. And it was a good match. So that's how we started that relationship. And I guess we're 3rd year in this year. And so we'll see how that goes down the road. But again, we got some other exciting partnerships and relationships we don't really talk about a lot, but have some other big ones coming in the near future as well. So
cool. Well, whenever those come out, I want you to come back on so we can start talking about those too.
Yeah, for sure.
You've spoken about the importance of constantly improving, right? Leveling up. What are some of the things that you do? And I know you kind of talked about mentors and mastermind groups, but are there other things that you do that help you improve as a husband, a father, and ultimately a business owner and a leader?
Yeah, I think for me, it's mind, body, and soul, right? So that requires me constantly working on myself. Like, where my routine, I'm reading every day. I'm big into like my prayer time, my Bible time, stuff like that. So from a spiritual standpoint, that helps, guides me. I think upon my path, and it's really helped me with my relationship with my wife, with my kids, my family, right? And then we have a commonality among there in regards to like me training, like that's me doing, I don't know, challenging myself. It's not just working out, right? Maybe like I hate running, but over the past year I've been running 3 miles a day, right? Just different things that challenge me, or let's say it's yoga or adding in the cold plunge a year ago. So there's different pieces that challenge me, and then there's different things that I'll do in regards to, I don't know, like Bible studies or different other studies, right? That are lessons that I can take into my life and then really make an impact on me and sort of change me internally, and then allow me to, I don't know, gauge where I am, then interact with different people. So it's also like, I think one of the things that I've done for a long time is really, I won't call it a New Year's resolution because you hear that all the time, but it's like for me, for years, I've always tried to make a pact with myself that I'm going to introduce myself or get in contact with 3 people that are like at a different level than me on a weekly basis, right? So from a networking standpoint, tying into different people, that allows me to grow my network, because over time, I think my network's been one of my biggest things that's allowed me to have some of the relationships I have. But again, that's challenging myself to go outside of that comfort zone, right? Speaking with people that I'm maybe not comfortable with or not from reaching out to. So again, through social media, through different ways, just interacting with different people to broaden my network, which allows me then to do different things to level up in that area of life. And then just from things with my kids, like just again being present, right? Like way back, I'd always be on my phone and stuff. It's not any of that anymore. It's like, hey, when you're present, you're solely present, right, with your family, with your kids, etc. And those are things that you have to work on you, and you just have to, like, again, sure, I'm not in the best mood all the time, etc. Different stress, but again, it's how do you, I don't say balance, but how do you handle that in life, right? And again, that's maturity, but doing a lot of the different things that I try to pour into myself from those, like my routine in the morning, my training, just different things. And then it's also like self-care, right? Taking care of yourself, like what therapy do you do outside of cold plunge and sauna and different things? Like, I don't know, it could even be like massage or muscle tissue or like whatever, but there's a bunch of different things that all come together to make you the best version of you.
How do you compete, or not compete? How do you navigate competing priorities when it comes to, being an amazing father and husband and leader, right? So I think that's one of the things that I struggle with all the time is, even though I have the the privilege of working with my wife, it's kind of, the moment where we kind of switch off and become husband and wife as opposed to co-founders or parents,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what is, how do you, and you have way more years of experience in business and in life than I do. So I'm just kind of, I want to learn from you. How do you separate all these things, and how do you become the best version of yourself for everybody?
Yeah, I think it's, you have to prioritize things, right? And what you give your time and attention to is going to grow, right? So from that standpoint, it's, again, me waking up before everyone else and getting, I'll call my time, right, allows me to be the best version for other people. So I've knocked out my Bible study, I've knocked out my reading, I've knocked out my journaling, I've knocked out my training, I've knocked out cold plunge, sauna, pretty much before 5 o'clock in the morning, but before 5:30, right? So from that, then I'm present with my little guy, right, getting him ready for school. I've always drive him to school, okay, before. So I used to go in and work, oh yeah, first in like 5 o'clock in the morning. No, I'll drive him to school, right? I'll come in after, probably with that, I got an hour plus drive because of the crazy traffic after dropping him off. But again, I get the time with him in the morning, right? I'm making sure that I'm prioritizing. I'm home for if he has sports at night, or if, again, to put him in bed, right? I spend that couple hours reading with him, doing different things, because I didn't get all that back then because I had different priorities, right? And again, I don't have any regrets, but just that change, that maturity, right? So it's, again, prioritizing and putting in your life, like date night, that's just non-negotiable, right? Been married 25 years, but we still have at least one date night a week, okay? If not a lot more than that. We do staycations, different things. Again, though, you have to have that time, but you have to prioritize it, right? And again, for me, it's like, she's my queen. She's like everything to me, right? So from that standpoint, I'm always going to try to be better than I was the day before, or whatever you want to say, with her, right? And guiding her and showing her love and how important and stuff she is. And I think kids see that in different things. Then you have to show up for your people at work, right? Even if you're having a shitty time at home, you still have to come. It's like a reset, prioritize, right? Different things. So it's what you want others to see is going to come through you. So you have to, it's almost like you're that mirror sometimes, right? And again, it's not always going to be a perfect, but you have to put on and prioritize and know what you have to turn on and off in appropriate situations, because it's like different people learn different ways. You might be a visual learner, right? So if I'm talking to you auditory and you can't see anything and I'm going with my hands and stuff, blah, 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 you're not learning. But again, if I don't know that, right, and I'm not like catering to you as an individual, me one-on-one, it's not going to be the same thing. So if my wife's, hey, love language is X, but I'm doing Y, she's like, who's this asshole sort of thing? Like, get out of my face. You have to understand that. But it's, again, building up that, I'll call it, over time, and prioritizing and learning, right? Self-learning, evolving. So again, it's a constant development in life. You're never going to stay stagnated, right? And again, I think that's key to growth.
I actually want to talk about your wife, Deborah. So I know that you guys have been together for 25 years. You guys have been married for 25 beautiful years. Tell me about Deborah, and what does she mean to you?
She means everything. She's my world. So we've been together almost 29 years, married 25 this October. But from that standpoint, yeah, she's like, again, I say I got lucky. God blessed me with just this wonderful companion, because from that standpoint, we don't fight. People are like, oh, no, we don't. It's just weird. Like, sure, we've had our differences and stuff, but from that standpoint, she's my best friend, confidant. She's the one that sort of, I don't know, bounce ideas off. She's supported me forever. She's moved with me like multiple times, multiple countries, just sort of trusting me, right? And from that standpoint, we've been down in the dumps. We've been at high levels, right? And she's just trust me. And then, like, even after having Layer Tech for 14 years, I told her, hey, we're selling it and I'm going to start another company. She's like, what the F is going on? Like, can't you just like have a normal life? And we sold the house we'd had for 10 years. It was on a golf course, crazy house, and basically took that money to start Icon Meals and put her and my two little ones, and just found out I was having Ryder at that time, into a 4-bedroom condo. And she trusted me, right? I said, give me a year and we'll have another house. We'll build another house. And again, that's, again, the trust that she's had with me, right? So it's just, again, we get along, we make decisions as partners. We make decisions on the family. She's sort of the guiding light. She's very spiritual woman as well, and just has been a blessing from that standpoint, in the guidance, and plays a huge important role in the kids' lives. And again, we're just big on family, right? Our values are aligned, and it's been great that way, growing the family and just our relationship over those 29 plus years.
And how'd you guys meet?
School. So way back in Canada in early 90s, so it's a long time ago.
Nice. Yeah, that's actually a very similar story to Josie and I. We met in high school, and she actually, so we didn't have any mutual friends or anything. I kind of saw her from like the distance in like in the lunchroom, so to speak. The way that our school was broken up, it was you had these wings, right, and they were like outdoor wings, and I saw her from across the way, and it was like the sea opened up, right, and I was like, who is this girl?
That's awesome.
I have to marry this girl. I didn't know her name. We had no mutual friends, nothing like that, and at first she hated me. At first we were like. I actually built up the courage to sit down and ask her, like, hey, is this seat taken? And she's like, yeah, it is. It is definitely taken. And from that moment on, I just, persistence beats resistance sometimes.
Yeah.
And I just kept trying. And one day I asked her out to be my girlfriend. I think this was like the third time. And she told me no for like the third time. And I said, you know what? Look, if friends is what you want, friends is what you're gonna get. I'll just treat you like everybody else, and that's that. And I remember I had like an old flip phone back then, and she sent me a text message. And I know, like, back then when you sent a text message, it was like it took you like an hour to write a sentence, right?
Yeah, sure.
And it was just like, hey, I made a huge mistake. Let's give this thing a try, like, and that was that moment, we just we've never broken up or anything like that. We've always been together. And ever since, we've done everything together. We've started businesses together. Obviously we've started our family together, and very similar to your wife. It's she's like the brain and I'm the heart, right? And we kind of contrast each other. And if you talk to Josie, it's like a completely different person than if you're talking to me. But we wouldn't want it any other way. This is how we balance each other out. She's intelligent, she's funny, and she sees the things that I don't, right? I'm sure very similar to your wife, right? And yeah, so it's pretty awesome that that we share a lot of commonalities in life and business and ultimately our relationships. So so yeah, Todd, this was probably the best way to kind of end end this conversation. So if people want to learn more about you or Icon Meals, where should they find you?
Yeah, on social media, for me personally, it's at Todd Abrams, so TODDABRAMS, and across Instagram, Facebook, etc. For Icon Meals, it's at Icon Meals on all social media, so you can find us if you like, I don't know, food porn, etc. You got lots of different things, so check us out. And yeah, I appreciate the time today, Brian. It was fun.
Todd, I wish you many more years of beautiful marriage, success, fitness, and cold plunges, my friend.
There we go.
All right.
I'll wait to hear how yours goes. So I appreciate it. And same to you, sir. And it was great talking to you today.
All right, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Brian. Take care.
Thank you.